BNP Paribas Wealth Management is proud to partner with the entrepreneurs on Monocle Radio. Confronted by complexity, you need a financial partner you can trust that will protect your assets and strive to meet your expectations. BNP Paribas Wealth Management is the bank for entrepreneurs in a changing world. Head to wealthmanagement.bnpparibas now for guidance on starting your journey. Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurs on Monocle Radio, the show all about inspiring people, innovative companies and fresh ideas in global business. On this week's episode, we're focusing on Finland's thriving landscape for business. I'll be joined by the ambassador of Finland to the UK to explore what makes his country so attractive for entrepreneurs.
Finland is a great country to make a living, to establish yourself, not only from the business perspective, but also Finland has been recognized as the happiest nation in the world for 7 years in a row.
And we'll hear about the exciting growth opportunities in the country from Business Finland's director for West Europe.
Finland could easily manufacture about 2/3 of the hydrogen needed in Europe. In order for somebody to manufacture, let's say, sustainable aviation fuels or methanol, etc., you need a carbon source, and that we have in Finland.
This is The Entrepreneurs, with me, Tom Edwards. You're listening to a special edition of The Entrepreneurs, brought to you in association with the Embassy of Finland in the United Kingdom. I'm delighted to say we're celebrating all things Finnish with two very distinguished representatives of the country, both of whom are named Jukka. Jukka Sikkosaari is ambassador of Finland to the UK, a post he's held for almost 3.5 years. A career diplomat for almost 3 decades, he's served in 6 different countries and on 4 continents. Sitting alongside His Excellency is Jukka Hoappa, Business Finland's director for West Europe. Welcome to you both. Now, there's a lot of ground to cover today on the show. Ambassador, I'll come to you in just a second, but Jukka Hoappa, I wanted to ask you first. There's lots of crossover between what you're both tasked with doing, but you're not part of directly the same organisation, are you? Explain that to us, just so our listeners understand these two lenses through which you both respectively look at things.
Business Finland is the governmental trade promotion organization of Finland, so we have these classic mandates of export promotion, helping Finnish companies and also attracting investments. So we are the trade and investment arm for Finland. I think we are colleagues. We are both working for Finland. In my salary slip, there's a different ministry. Let's put it this way.
Perfect. Well, let's jump into this conversation because we're sort of advocates for being in Finland, for working there, lots of Finnish colleagues in the building. But Ambassador, I'll start with you about why Finland, first of all, because I think people are aware that Finland is proudly pro-business. It has a very fertile landscape in which ambitious entrepreneurial people can operate. But I guess when you have that conversation at first order with people, what do you say when they say, why is Finland a good place to do business?
Well, I think the starting point is that Finland is a great country to make a living, to establish yourself. And that starts not only from the business perspective, but also from life in general. So it's a good place to raise children. It's a great place to enjoy nature. Finland has been recognized as the happiest nation in the world for 7 years in a row, and not in vain, I think. So we have been able to create a society where it's good for people to live in and good for them to feel safe and secure.
And I guess that safety, that security, that quality of life, something we like to think we know a little bit about here at Monocle, Jukka, that is something that it translates very elegantly to fertility for business as well, doesn't it? I guess because it's stable, right? Because it's secure. There's a really robust foundation upon which to build.
Exactly, there is. And as I always say that kind of professionally, Finland is the best environment in the world. There are many reasons for that. I think, very cool technology ecosystem, probably best in the world. But what I like about Finland is that the organizational structures are extremely flat. So you basically have access to everybody in Finland. what is surprising to many people when I describe them the Finnish ecosystem and the opportunities there, it's not only the Finnish companies. The large global companies are deeply involved in the Finnish ecosystem. So you can work in Google in Finland, you can work in Microsoft in Finland, you can work in GE Healthcare, do R&D in Finland. So there are opportunities in the global companies in Finland as well, in this nice flat organization structure.
And Ambassador, it's interesting, we were talking a little bit before, but there is something about the openness, how receptive Finland and Finns are to exactly that kind of inward investment, not just of finance, but of talent. It's a human-facing thing. And there's lots of reasons for this. Perhaps you can talk to us about some of them. Language facility definitely being one. There are some unique qualities that enable Finland to be this effective base for so many people from wherever they come.
Let me start with the language first. Finnish is a very peculiar language and rather difficult for foreigners to learn, but that has also led to the fact that in Finland you can easily get by with many of the global languages, of course English being the first one of them. And then we are also a bilingual country, so Swedish and Finnish are both official languages of the country, and especially on the coastal regions you can easily get by with Swedish if you have that when you move into the country. And actually many foreigners opt for using Swedish rather than Finnish as their first language in the country simply because Swedish is more related to the other European languages. But then I would like to also raise the concept of trust, the trust between individuals. You can trust that your neighbor is going to do what he or she has said, and the Finns also trust their institutions, and that is a tremendous strength for the society, that we know that what has been written in the rules and the regulations is kept. There's extremely low levels of corruption. We regularly come number one in the Transparency International's measurements of corruption in the positive sense. So it is an easy environment to do business in that sense, that you know that what is written and what is promised will also be kept.
Well, and just on its place in the world, not in terms of perceptions, but literally as well, Ambassador, Finland is well positioned, right? We often talk here about it being a gateway, kind of flying across the top of the world, if you like. But I think, again, sometimes people sort of... Do you think there's a tendency for people to sort of almost overlook Finland, and actually even its physical location is very advantageous?
Yes, I mean, it's quite understandable. When you look at the map or the globe, Finland is always on the right top-hand side of the whatever perception you have. So it's easy to think that we are peripheral. But in today's world, it has less and less meaning. So if the physical connectivity is in place, which it is for Finland, we have very good flight connections to every European capital and also to Asia. And then what is, of course, important is the information infrastructure, that you have good connections for moving data and information quickly from within the country, but also from the country abroad. And that is something that Finland has been investing in a lot on connectivity.
Connectivity, technology, sustainability, robust foundations. It's an attractive picture. You could talk to me a little bit about the specifics of maybe some sectors or even particular businesses that embody these qualities, because in the abstract, it sounds perfect, but it's actually often useful to look at an institution or a business who's demonstrated how easy it is to move from abstraction into delivering amazing products, great services, happy teams, lots of success. Talk to us about some of these areas. There's a couple of maybe big names that people will know, maybe some that are less well known around the world. Maybe give us some examples.
I could maybe start with the industry which people usually think is the most boring industry in the world, which is Finnish pulp and paper industry, which has been extremely important for Finland, not for decades, but for hundreds of years. We are now seeing that our pulp and paper industry is transforming extremely nicely. So the traditional boring Finnish pulp and paper industry will be the global leader when it comes to new sustainable bio-based materials in the future, whether it's, materials that can replace plastics, packaging materials, textiles even. So I think that is a wonderful example what is possible in Finland. We can even transfer the most basic and traditional industry.
Ambassador, that's interesting, because I think that innovation, that hunger to innovate, but all underpinned with this genuine investment in true sustainability, that seems to be another value that's very important. How fundamental to the direction of travel across sectors is this idea of true sustainability? again, with my outsider's hat on looking in, Finland seems to be very progressive in its policy and its ambition in terms of genuine sustainability. Is that enmeshed into, I don't know, virtually every decision that's made by government, the projects that come across your desk?
I would say that it starts from the population and the citizens and their views on environmental values and sustainability in general. So Finns have throughout their history had a very close relationship with nature. I always say that a Finn never lives more than 100 meters from the closest forest, which is because the country is so sparsely populated. We have lots of space, but we also value the nature and what it brings us very highly. One good example of that is our system of every man's rights. So everybody has the right to roam freely in the countryside, in the forests, regardless of the ownership of the land. So that's quite a unique system and phenomena for many foreigners. We also have, I think, one of the most advanced systems of circulating materials. So bottles, for example, glass or plastic bottles have had a system of recycling for decades, and therefore we are much ahead of where the European Union, for example, is in their recycling efforts. It comes very naturally for Finns to be at the forefront of sustainability, and that's why it's relatively easy for the governments to have these ambitious targets when it comes to climate change, for example.
I have noticed that governments always have ambitious targets throughout the world, but there's actually no ground behind it. They just take the number somewhere and they usually push it as far as possible. I think India has a target of being carbon neutral 2070. One very important thing to understand in Finland that it's our industries which are driving this. So our industries have committed to be carbon neutral by 2035. And they have roadmaps which are in the public domain. There are 13 different industry roadmaps. So it's not just a number. So our industries have very clear roadmaps which are on the public domain, how our industry can drive Finland to be carbon neutral by 2035.
See, a world leader, again, in that area. Let's talk about this spirit of innovation and adaptability. And I think the fact that the country collectively can move so quickly and seemingly seamlessly is testament to that adaptability. Let's talk about another business. We talk about Nokia Ventures, and I know you have some friends there, but this is a business that I guess became well known in one realm, but then it has proven it can excel in another. It's in the vanguard in so many areas of technical innovation. This is another really good case study, I think, for the facility with which Finnish business more broadly and specific innovators can adapt, can move, can prove very fleet of foot, which is actually so important, isn't it, to be successful in business?
Exactly. I think that the turnaround story of Nokia has been exceptional. You know, they divested the mobile phones to Microsoft, which eventually killed it, unfortunately. But then two very successful acquisitions in the network space, acquiring Siemens Networks and then Alcatel-Lucent Networks. And now Nokia is the global leader when it comes to 5G. So about 200 global 5G agreements. So they are dominating on the network side. What we are now seeing, what Tarun Sharma, the head of Nokia Ventures, will talk about is that how they are so many innovations coming from Nokia. So from Nokia Bell Labs especially, which is home to I don't know how many Nobel laureates it is. But there Nokia has pivoted to the network side and now innovating a lot in the communication space, in the critical communication space is especially, which is so topical today.
Well, let's hear about how things are going at Nokia Ventures. Here is Monocle's Helsinki correspondent, Petri Burtsov.
Tarun Sharma moved to Finland 2 decades ago and now runs Nokia's future-oriented arm called Nokia Ventures. Its task is to find potential startups and ideas to invest in, and this means that Mr. Sharma spends much of his time on the road. I caught up with him when he was in Bangalore in India and asked him about the kinds of projects that Nokia Ventures is working on.
So, first one, is RxRM, which is, 360 video compressed and highly efficient for multiple industries and use cases. Another is AIMS, which is drone-based warehouse automation solution. Another example is sustainable energy management, where we are doing grid optimization of supply and demand of energy. So that's another venture. CDM, which is cognitive digital mine. We are using technology to make mines more efficient. We have lunar activities going on in space, talking of moonshot projects.
Outside of his work with Nokia Ventures, Sharma also works with the startup community in Finland as a mentor and as an investor. I asked him to describe the Finnish startup scene and to name some of the most promising businesses.
It's very much deep rooted into innovation and research, I would say. There's a lot of work happening on deep tech. Obviously, there is a lot of work at AI. In fact, in last few months, one of our biggest European lab of AI called Silo AI, which is a company headquartered in Finland. This was acquired for 600 million plus by AMD. Quantum is again one such sector which is getting a lot of talent in Finland now. There's already IQM, which is a unicorn, which is originally from Finland. Another company called Semicon, which is a spin-off from VTT. That's again in the quantum space. Again, given the Vario and Microsoft HoloLens, there is a lot of interesting work happening in AR, VR, mixed reality space. Then another sector which is gaining a lot of popularity is space tech. Again, for our audience, you may know there are companies like Kua Space and ISI, which are sort of working on the space economy. And then ESG, energy and sustainability, that's very much in like Nordic culture, and you see that in the Finnish ecosystem. There's food, alternatives and sustainable material, biomaterials, etc.
Finally, I asked Sharma about what opportunities Finland has for investors and professionals looking for their next career move.
If you're an investor looking at deep tech, innovation, because of the government policies, because of the innovative ecosystem, sustainability, ESG investments, Nordic and again Finland is getting a lot of attraction. And these environments are also very stable environments. Stability in terms of economic stability, right? Or predictability, or ease of doing business, or the digitalization of businesses. So there's things like that which attract investors. If you're a young graduate, it's interesting. Like especially if you look at, you want to go for a higher education, you want to go for your master's or PhD. Again, we see a lot of PhDs coming in, top universities in Finland. That's one opportunity. You're looking at job opportunities in the deep tech sector or innovation or startup. And again, as a young graduate, you also want to balance a little bit. You want to also see the world. So work-life balance becomes very interesting. And that same applies to mid-career as well. Mid-career, you have work-life balance. You have great quality of life overall speaking in Finland. And raising a family, raising children in a safe environment with good education, but I think it does have some unique aspect which fundamentally falls around innovation, research, quality of life, security, safety, work-life balance. At least for us it was valuable and we've enjoyed it, and I know there are many who might be in our situation or like similar situation and may want to explore.
Thanks, Petri, and we'll be hearing more from Petri a little later in the programme. Jukka, we heard from Taron there. Tell me a bit about your connection. He's certainly an inspiring figure.
I've been friends with Tarun for almost 10 years. I moved to Delhi 8 years ago, to New Delhi, India, and Tarun originally is from New Delhi. He has been in Finland for 23 years now and is a Finnish citizen. And Tarun, I think, is the biggest patriot there is in Finland, and he loves Finland. We were friends for maybe 4 or 5 years already, and then one evening my family was sitting in Tarun's house in Espoo, Finland, and we just started to discuss that how is it so that we get along so well. And then I asked him, when were you born? September, which day? September 10th, which year? 1975. Oh dear, we were born on the exact same day. Tarun, true patriot, wonderful to have such people in Finland. driving our innovation ecosystem forward.
I love that. That's sort of brothers in arms, an amazing tale. Ambassador, that speaks volumes, doesn't it, for this conviction and this amazing sense of belonging, actually, that people have when they do live and work in Finland. Talk to me a bit more about that and what the opportunity is then for the country to continue to leverage that appeal, all of these properties and qualities that we've talked about as we look to the future, because presumably exponential growth is possible. What does that look like? And tell me how exciting that is to be a part of spreading the word and making people aware of just what lies inside Finland's borders.
Maybe on the mindset, I think Finns have always been extremely good at inventing things. They are a nation of, or we are a nation of inventors. What we perhaps have been not so good at is the innovation side. So how do you turn an invention into a commercially viable product? But that has changed over the decades behind us. So Nokia, among other things, did leave at its wake a tremendous wave of innovative startup companies that were spin-offs either from Nokia itself or then were founded by people who had worked for the company at its heyday. So that's a legacy that we have. Also, the attitude towards entrepreneurship has changed quite a lot, I think, during my adult life. When I was a young business graduate in the 1990s, entrepreneurship perhaps was not number one choice for people out of university. But now, with the startup culture, it has really become the sort of most looked after career for many graduates, engineering and business alike. And I think also what we have been able to do is quite successfully combining different types of university education. And I'm thinking of Aalto University in Helsinki, which brings together engineering, business and design and arts, and trying to create an environment on campus that brings together and unifies different kinds of talent that then lead into new businesses.
Yeah, fascinating. And listeners can't see this, but the ambassador doesn't possibly look old enough to have been a business graduate in the 1990s, but that's just my observation. Let's talk a bit about some sector specifics. Jukka, let me ask you about this because Sulapak, from whom we will hear in a second, this is a business that's an exemplar, again, of benchmarks of excellence, but also a business that is really putting sustainability at the centre of what it does. And another great business, another great example.
Another great example of Finland moving towards to be the global leader when it comes to sustainable bio-based materials. So we have the large Finnish pulp and paper companies working on it, but we have a wonderful, wonderful lineup of small Finnish companies working on these materials as well, very nicely together, government supporting.
Well, let's take this opportunity to hear more about Sulapak. Here is Petri Burtsov again.
Everyone knows that plastics are a problem. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, up to 23 million tons of plastic waste leaks into aquatic ecosystems every year, polluting our lakes, rivers, and the seas. But replacing them with more environmentally friendly materials is a challenge. Plastic packaging is durable and water resistant, easy to mold into different shapes, and cheap to produce. This is where the Finnish biomaterial innovation Sulapak comes in, as the company's founder Suvi Haimi explains.
So we founded Sulapak in 2016 because all us founders, we wanted to utilize our biomaterial expertise to solve something which is close to our hearts, and that was the global plastic waste problem. So we created this Sulapak material innovation that has almost all the benefits of plastic without having the microplastic pollution challenge and the plastic waste problem. So these materials are fully recyclable, bio-based, biodegradable, and they can be utilized in the same machines as traditional plastics.
And you've actually brought some samples of the material, and we're looking at them now, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Some of it, for example, this cosmetics container that I'm holding here, you can see that it's not traditional plastic. You can sort of see are these wooden chips that you see inside?
Yes, indeed, they are the wooden chips. So Sulapak materials, they are made from plant-based biopolymers, and then we combine them with, for instance, waste wood chips and also naturally occurring clay minerals.
Sulapak started in the cosmetics industry and has worked with brands such as Chanel and Shiseido, the first of which has also invested into Sulapak. As the company has expanded, it has acquired clients in industries such as food services. One of its most recent projects is producing a plastic-like cup for the American fast food chain Burger King. The cups are 100% biodegradable and can be washed around 200 times.
We started with cosmetic packaging, and that is still the cornerstone of our business. Obviously, our materials can be utilized in various applications. We have, for instance, brought these cutlery and straws, so having products in the food service area. The latest innovation being in the thermoforming area. So you can make these trays, you can make cups, you can make packaging from thermoforming. So really replacing conventional plastic is as many applications as possible.
Jaime, who holds a PhD in biomaterials and worked as a researcher and adjunct professor before launching Sulapak in 2016, already has her eyes set on a new venture.
In addition to Sulapak, I actually have myself founded a new company called Kurai, and that is looking the same global plastic waste problem from the data and digitalization perspective. So in essence, we are building a platform to collect, manage and share data, so help companies to make more sustainable products using digitalized product data.
Petri Burtsoff there. Listening to that, it strikes me there's a real opportunity for expansive growth in areas like green energy, in particular the potential of hydrogen as a real game changer. It's almost a question of making sure you can harbour all that potential, right? And then making sure you tell people about it, because there's such a wealth of opportunity here, presumably.
Everybody's talking about hydrogen. It seems even to be like a bubble, but I would divide overall discussion around hydrogen into two. How to manufacture hydrogen, which I think everybody's talking about. But then hardly anybody's talking about how to use it, where to use it, how to utilize it, because that is a whole different ballgame. I think I just saw actually some calculations that Finland could easily manufacture about 2/3 of the hydrogen needed in Europe, especially on our west coast. Why? We have low price of energy. There's water, as we all know, on the west coast of Finland. We have wonderful electricity grid. So in a way, we can manufacture hydrogen, but there are many places that can do that. I think what makes the difference in Finland is that we have carbon. We have a carbon source from the side streams of our forest industry. And usually hydrogen has to be transformed to something. And in order for somebody to manufacture, let's say, sustainable aviation fuels or methanol, etc., you need a carbon source. And that we have in Finland. So that is the reason why I think that Finland will be one of the global hub for hydrogen production, because we have a wonderful ecosystem to do that, but we have off-takers. So we will have off-takers from the sustainable aviation fuel manufacturing, etc. We also have a very special uptaker, which is Google. Google just announced last week that they are buying 1,400 hectares of land in Finland. That's almost 4,000 acres. Google is already operating the largest data center outside US in Finland, and they will build huge data center operations in Finland. So we will have off-takers there as well for the energy.
Huge potential. It's such a dynamic sector to be looking at. Ambassador, let me ask you to cast an eye to the future, because we talked a bit about the sort of unique opportunity of Finland. It strikes me there's a great deal of humility always, whether I talk to entrepreneurs, business leaders, officials, very humble. And I think Finns are modest, perhaps too modest, given all of the potential that the country and its people have. Let's do a little bit of chest thumping. Why is Finland so good? Because some people might say, you can hop on a ferry if you're in Tallinn, say, also a very fertile startup scene. Why is Finland the best? You don't have to knock down your neighbours, but why is Finland the best? Tell us about what makes it the best, not just a great place, but the best place if you're, for example, starting up a business.
Well, I would say that what differentiates us from our neighbors and perhaps other European countries as well is the Finnish style of doing business. We don't like to talk too much. We like to do things. So small talk can be a culture shock when you go to Finland, because people don't really find it very necessary. Of course, the society is becoming more international, and we have people who have worked in different places around the world and then come back to Finland, and they are different from your average Finn. But Finns are doers, not talkers, and I think that is something you need to understand if you want to do business in Finland, that you have to build a relationship with a Finn in order to create the trust that I mentioned, and then once you get to that level, then you have a business partner that you can completely rely on. Can I come back to the energy point still? Jukka said about how economic or cheap energy in Finland is, and that is actually a result of conscious policy of Finnish governments to diversify our energy mix. We, for obvious reasons, have seen it important that we have to have security of supply in all sectors, and energy being a very important part of them. So therefore, already before environmental issues became a hot topic in energy production, our mix was very varied. We've had nuclear for decades, and we continue to build nuclear to have that as a safe source of energy when the sun is not shining and there's no wind. But on top of that, we have now built a completely varied and credible mix of renewable sources from solar, from wind, and also from biomass. And Finland is blessed in the sense that we have the biggest forestry resources in Europe, and we use them in a very sustainable manner, creating products for the forestry and the paper and pulp industry, but also using the residues then for energy. So the energy infrastructure and the grid, the electricity grid in Finland especially, is the most reliable in the world.
Well, just on this point, so many of these areas of great achievement and even greater potential, which is very exciting. Is there an opportunity, indeed, maybe even an imperative, Ambassador, for Finland to leverage all of these properties, maybe even in other theatres? You know, can Finland even go further on the world stage if we talk about geopolitics and diplomacy, to leverage these same properties? Deep trust, robust institutions, commercially minded, incredible civic and social capital. We should be hearing more from Finland, not just in the business realm, but in the civic, in the global governance realm, right? They've got some, I don't know, tricky neighbours maybe to the east, which offers a different kind of challenge. But we should be getting more from Finland, shouldn't we, you and your colleagues?
I think you're talking about the Finnish model of comprehensive security that we have been building over decades, and which is one of the strengths of the society. It's not an easy product to export, so it's very tied to the culture and the history of the country. But we are certainly more than willing to share our experiences and tell how we have done it. And that's actually what we are doing at the UK as well.
Gentlemen, the clock is against us, but I wanted to just wrap up perhaps by finding out what you're most excited about. Jukka, I'll come to you first of all. Some of the sectors you've described already, I can sense in your sort of, there's a almost palpable sense of anticipation about their transformational potential. But if we look, I don't know, into 25, or maybe even a slightly longer time horizon, what most excites you about what's next for Finland?
I'm actually most excited about the opportunity for startups in Finland. Startups usually want two things. They want money and clients. And although we are a poor country, we have lots of venture cap, we have lots of government support for R&D. So there's money available, and there's also clients because, as mentioned, pretty much all the global companies are doing R&D in Finland. So there's access to large global clients. So I'm just very excited to make sure that we rope in the best possible entities also from UK to Finland in our wonderful ecosystem.
And Ambassador, perhaps a final word. What gets you springing out of bed in the morning with the most alacrity?
Well, the biomaterials were mentioned already, so I won't take that. But I will talk about what excites me is something that I don't understand very well myself, which is artificial intelligence and quantum. And we have companies in Finland, rather small ones and at the startup phase, but with very innovative technologies on quantum, and also quite a lot of university research on AI and companies derived from that. Finnish government's goal is to have 4% of our GDP on R&D. That's both private and public sector, and that cooperation also, the cooperation between the universities, the government research organizations and companies, has very long roots and it works well. And that's something that we think that the future of Finland will be built on.
That was Finland's ambassador to the UK, Jukka Sikkosaari, and Jukka Huopa of Business Finland. You can find out more by heading to businessfinland.com. And if you'd like to meet one of Finland's most famous and certainly more high-flying entrepreneurs, Stop by Monocle's Christmas market here in London this weekend, the 14th and 15th, because Santa Claus is coming from his hometown of Rovaniemi for a special appearance. Catch him while he's here. And that is all for this episode of The Entrepreneurs. We'll be back at the same time next week. Do look out for Eureka, available every Friday. The Entrepreneurs is produced by Laura Kramer with audio editing by Jack Dewars. You can listen again and find out more about the show at monocle.com. You can also follow us and catch up with the archive wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to contact the team, do email Laura on lrk@monocle.com. I'm Tom Edwards. Goodbye, and thanks for listening to The Entrepreneurs. BNP Paribas Wealth Management is proud to partner with The Entrepreneurs on Monocle Radio. Confronted by complexity, you need a financial partner you can trust that will protect your assets and strive to meet your expectations. BNP Paribas Wealth Management is the bank for entrepreneurs in a changing world. Head to wealthmanagement.bnpparibas now for guidance on starting your journey.